Hello, my fair friends. I'm Ruby Ruse. This is Baby Bunny, and welcome to Fairy Fortunes. Today we are continuing our series on fairy fortunes and geomancy. If you missed the previous videos, I will have them linked below in the description box, so be sure to check those out. And so I will just briefly mention that the fairy fortunes are based on the divinational practice of geomancy, which was popular in the Renaissance. So if you want to learn more about that, be sure to check out those previous videos. So the first card that I do want to talk about today is Acquisitio, the Alicanto. The Alicanto comes from the country of Chile. And these are bird spirits, and what they are known to do is they are known to seek out gold and silver ore and eat it. So they are very glorious and beautiful bird spirits. The only problem with the Alicantos is that they do tend to overeat. If they find a particularly tasty vein of ore, they might gorge themselves and then unfortunately render themselves unable to fly. So that is the danger of the Acquisitio, the Alicanto. But as you can imagine, because of the energy of wealth associated with the Alicantos, is it works very well with the figure Acquisitio from Geomancy. Acquisitio in Latin means gain. And so I thought that that was a very good pairing because also, as I said before in some of the other videos with the geomantic figures, is that gain seems like a wonderful thing. It's hard to imagine how that could possibly be bad. But like the Acquisitio, the Alicanto, who tends to overeat, in some cases having more than we need can in fact be a bad thing depending on the situation. And so that is why I selected the Alicanto to correlate with the geomantic figure of Acquisitio. Also, I explained in the previous videos, and if you have been watching my channel, you do know that there is a musical element to all of my fortunes. And so if you are just now joining us for this part in our series, the reason that there is a musical component to the fairy fortunes is that as a member of the Fae, my magic actually comes from my music. And so when I designed this divinational system, I wanted it to include the aspect that powers my magic. And so the little song that goes with Acquisitio, the Alicanto, goes as such. A show is Acquisitio, a gluttonous Alicanto. The more she procures, the less she endures, the weight of her fate in escrow. And in the geomantic figure, these are the divinational figures from Geomancy. This is a binary mathematical system. There are 4 lines which feature 1 or 2 dots on each of those lines. And if you watch the first video, it explains that the first line is associated with the element of fire. The second line is associated with the element of air. The third line, the element of water. And finally, the final line is earth. So what's interesting about geomantic figures is they form what appears to be objects, and it helps you remember what they are. So if you connect the dots of Acquisitio, it looks to some extent like a bag that is open and therefore is allowing you to be filled with wealth and abundance. So the second card that I wanted to talk about today was Carcer the Cailleach. Once again, I have a Western fairy from the country of Ireland here. Quite a bit of the fairy fortune cards feature Western fairies, though as you can see, not all of them do. And the Cailleach is the story that goes with the Cailleachs of Ireland is that they are beings that are associated often with kidnapping and restricting the innocent. Now, there is some speculation that the Cailleach is actually holding them to keep them safe, to keep them protected. It's not always, in the stories, the Cailleach may not necessarily have nefarious reasons for kidnapping their subject. And so with the Carcer, the figure of Geomancy, I felt that energy went very well with the Irish Cailleach, because Carcer in Latin translates to prison. It has the same root as the word incarcerated, and that is probably where the original form of incarceration, the word came from, was the Latin base carcer, which means prison. So, as you can imagine, the Cailleach represents limitations, it represents restrictions. Now, I talked about with Acquisitio the Alicanto, it seems like how could gain possibly be a bad thing? But we certainly don't want to continue gaining in an illness. We certainly wouldn't want to keep gaining misfortune. So likewise with Carcer the Cailleach, when she appears in a reading, it's not always a terrible thing to see her. She is also associated with focus. A lot of times we need to isolate ourselves in order to really hone in and crack down on a project that is important to us. Also, when you're thinking about being focused, being limited, being stationary, being contained, definitely when you're in search of a home, or perhaps you're looking at real estate projects, Carcer would be a very positive character to have appear in a reading, because she would definitely be saying, stay here. This place is good. This place is safe. So she is not always a bad symbol. Her limitation is not always to keep you confined. It may be to hone your focus instead. Even though Hansel and Gretel is generally seen as a folktale from Germany, it seems to me that that very perfectly represents a story of a Cailleach, is that the witch with the gingerbread house in the story of Hansel and Gretel is definitely a Cailleach type character. And so to go with the geomantic figure of Carcer the Cailleach, here we have 1 dot, 2 dot, 2 dots, and 1 dot. And if we join them together, as I did with Acquisitio, it is a very enclosed, very containing figure. So that's a good way to remember the symbol, is that it is completely enclosed, whereas no other geomantic figure is. So I hope that you have enjoyed this part of our Geomancy and Fairy Fortunes series. Please, by all means, hit that notification bell for notifications of future videos like this one in the future. We also have regular fortunes, so if you leave a question for Bunny and I in the comments below, it's possible that we will feature your question on the show. If you would like to remain anonymous, all you have to do is send me an email, and my email is rubyruse@fairyfortunes.com. Be sure also to visit us on Facebook. We do post daily content on our Facebook page. So we look forward to seeing you, and we hope you have a fairyful day.